Hey, welcome to the next lesson in Adobe Premiere Pro. And I thought for this lesson we would continue to talk about editing, basic, simple editing. I know we talked about it before, but I do want to talk about some other ideas in relationship to editing clips in the timeline and some workflow issues that you may explore when working with editing. So we have this project here called Goat Yoga. This is one of my favorite projects here. We have a bin full of interviews here, which have these interviews that we can look here in icon view and see the different interviews. We have good old Fiona, and we have Mai here, and we have Virginia, who I like, and we have this guy Rob, he was okay, and Samantha. We can see these files here, and then we have this fantastic bin full of B-roll footage of all these people doing yoga with goats. This is a big thing, apparently. People do yoga in the presence of goats. So they're there on a goat farm doing yoga with goats. And so we have all this footage of people doing yoga here with goats. We can zoom in a little bit and see all the great yoga goat-tasticness here. It's going to be a good time. And so kids playing with goats and goats on people's backs and all this other stuff and people doing all kinds of yoga with goats. So I thought this might be fun to work in as a project. So I'm going to build a sequence. I can go here and I can go to the sequence menu and go to the file menu and go to new sequence and make a new sequence, or I can hit my favorite shortcut, Command N. So we're going to be here, Command N. I'm on a Mac, so it's going to be Command. If I was on a PC, it'd be Control. And I'm going to use the Canon XF preset. So the Canon XF, I know that this was shot with a Canon C100, and so I'm going to use the Canon XF preset, and it's 1080p, and it's 24 frames a second. That's my rate. That's what I'm working in, 1920 by 1080 at 23 frames per second, and I will call this sequence, I don't know, main sequence, or main goat sequence. The goat sequence. Yeah, I don't know. Some playfulness there. Anyway, so we'll make this goat sequence here. You may want to try, and you may hit Command B and make another bin, and you may make a bin called sequences. Sometimes I do this. I make a bin for just all my sequences, especially if I'm going to have multiple sequences, which on bigger projects, I sometimes have multiple copies of sequences. So I'm going to have a goat sequence. This is going to be the goat sequence here. And I do want to talk in detail about this idea of track selectors, because I think this is relatively important of how this works in here. And these blue guys here on the sequence, normally when you make a sequence here, it'll actually tell you that it's going to make 3 video tracks, and then it's going to make multiple audio tracks, audio track 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they are standard audio tracks, which means the mixed track type is stereo, and it makes stereo audio tracks there. As an idea, it's something that does. So we have 3 video tracks, 4 audio tracks, and these are called the track selects inside of here. And so we want to make sure we understand how these work and what they really do. And so we'll start to build a sequence here. So again, we're going to go in here into B-roll, and I'll just open up with a montage of B-roll. I have this shot of this farm where this was taking place. This is called the Oasis Farm. So we're going to double-click and open up that, and we're going to bring in the Oasis Farm. And I'm going to do traditional 3-point editing, which means I'm going to go to the beginning of here, on the timeline here. I'm on the timeline, so I'm going to hit the I key or hit this button and mark an in point here. So I want this clip to start here. And I'm just going to find a clip. There's a little bit of shaky footage in the beginning of this clip, but eventually it kind of levels out. So right about here, I'm going to take this, and I'm going to play for a couple seconds. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. Cool. I've got about a little bit shorter than 3 seconds. I can go a little bit longer. There's 218. Let's see if I can hit 3. 302. I guess I get it back and get exactly 3 seconds. It tells me right here it's exactly 3 seconds, but honestly, I don't know if I needed 3 seconds exactly, so I'm just going to update my out point and go to here. And so now I have 123. It's just too close. It's gonna be 2 seconds. I don't know why. I like even numbers. They just make me feel better. I don't really care, but it's just there. And so now I'm gonna bring this clip in here, but I don't want to bring in the audio. I know there's some great sound of there's actually some goats in the background. This might be good. Maybe we want the goat sounds in the background. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say, hey, my audio 1 track, I'm gonna designate my audio 1 track to be designated as my main content track. So it's gonna have my main content on there. I don't know, do I want the sound of goats on this track? Well, there's nothing going to be else playing here. Maybe there'll be some music in there later, but I'm going to leave this alone and keep it like there. So it's going to send the video information from video 1 to video 1, and it's going to send the audio information from audio 1 to audio 1, and it's going to go in there. And I'll use one of these 2 keys, the comma key or the period key, to insert or overwrite. But since I'm not putting anything else in the timeline at this point, it doesn't really matter, so I will go to comma key, the first one there, right below the K key, the comma key, and I will insert that in there, and it puts a tiny little clip that you can't see. So let's go back to the timeline and hit the plus button or the equal sign. I always think it's the plus and minus, even though there's no shift there, so it's just the equal sign next to the delete key, and I can zoom in here. There's also a function that I can hit the backslash button, and I can zoom full. So if you're ever zoomed in super small, you can hit the backslash button that's underneath the delete key and go to full, kind of fix the timeline, so whatever's on the timeline, it goes to full. So now we see this here. That's a quick shortcut there. And we have this little scene here. You hear some goats. It's very exciting. We're going to go to the end of this clip, so I can either do shift-click and go to the end of this clip and snapping this clip, but actually snapping is on already. So notice in my settings, snapping is on already. And if I hold in the shift key, it will disable snapping. So snapping is sort of happening here already. And that's in my settings. So in my settings, preferences settings, in my timeline settings, snap to playhead when snap is enabled. So snap at playhead is enabled there. I can turn that off. So shift key should just do snapping naturally like so. But this is actually not a long clip, so it's really not hard to actually hit the end point. So we're going to hit mark endpoint, and I'm going to have mark endpoint. So I'm going to start another clip right here. So let's find some good footage of maybe, there's some great footage here in, if I look through, there's some great footage of like people arriving, people showing up and there. There's this clip A16. We'll make a note of that. Maybe we'll just double click it and open it up so we can look at it. Here's some people there signing things, some little kids signing up some forms and doing some things. There's another shot, and I'll show you this. There's another shot here of people walking in. This is A3, so A3 was this shot here. And so there's people walking in. Maybe we go to this shot. So I don't know, we can decide. Do we want to go to A3 or A16? Now, even if this is closed, A3 will still be here. And I'll show you a trick. If you go to these little lines right here, you can open up recently opened things. So if you're ever like, oh, what was that clip I just opened? Was it A1? Was it A16? Oh, it was A16. It's right here. So let's use these. Let's use one of these clips. I'm going to go with A3 here. And we're going to bring in A3 and have these people walking into like kind of their introduction into do goat yoga. We'll have them just play for a couple seconds. Eeny, meeny, miny. They go off screen, and we have this 2.5, almost 3 seconds there. Should I go to one more frame and go 3 exactly? Yeah, maybe we'll go 3 exactly. Again, do I want this sound? Do I want the steps of people walking in? Well, I don't know, but I feel like I've already set up this kind of equation where these people are coming in and they have these sounds here. So yeah, maybe I do want to keep this that way. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see the rest of this. So we have an in point, we have an out point, we have a corresponding in point, right? We have 3-point edits. So now we have in point, out point. It's going to line up the in point to in point. Going to be as long as defined by the out point, and I made this exactly 3 seconds because I'm a little bit crazy. But we're going to take this and throw this insert, or we can do overwrite. We're going into blank space, so it doesn't really matter if we insert, if we overwrite. It doesn't. I mean, who cares? We're going to say insert, or we're going to say overwrite just to show you we can do both. And we're going to overwrite, and now we have these 2 clips. Looks like this. Goats, people walking in. And then maybe we go to a clip here. I'm just going to make sure I hold down shift and snap to this. Now it's getting a little harder to just find the point there, so I'm going to use snap. Or I could use the up and down arrows to go to jump to the next available space here, the next available in point, basically. And say, or next available cut point, and I can mark clip there. So I'm going to put my next clip right there at the end of this. And I think I want to go back to B-roll, so I'm going to open up B-roll. And I have this floating window B-roll. We can make this a little bit smaller maybe, just because we don't need to super huge. And we have Mai. So Mai is this woman who, Mai Cleary, she's the woman who organizes the event. And she usually speaks to people beforehand, before the thing starts. So we're just going to throw in a little bit of this.
Agriculture, the environment.
Find a good soundbite.
Then we move them to a more permanent farm. So we do have our second farm already, and then some of those students will get on our payroll in the parts of.
I know, this is okay. We're just going to see if she says anything.
All the time, so we need to buy another farm soon. So this is really helpful. Enjoy, and I'll be bringing feed around to the goats if they get too lazy and just start sitting.
So maybe we'll take that. I don't know if that's great, but we'll take that.
And yeah, we're trying to expand. A lot of people trying to get into the program. There's not enough spaces all the time, so we need to buy another farm soon.
I don't like that, but we're gonna get this part right here.
Really help healers. This is.
I'm using my JKNL. I'm using my JKNL to scroll back and forth to find this is really helpful.
This is really helpful.
That was not bad. I can use Shift-I to go back to the endpoint, or I can hit this button to go back to the endpoint, and it'll say right there Shift-I in little small letters. It'll tell you right there that Shift-I is go to endpoint. And so here's go to endpoint.
This is really helpful.
Maybe we go back to Shift-I. I'll show you this. I'll go to Shift-I. We'll go back here, or we can hit that button right there that we were on. Maybe go back 1-2 frames. Just to give a little bit more space.
This is really helpful.
I think that was too much. Let's go back one frame. So we're going to go Shift-I again, go forward one frame, and then go here.
This is really helpful.
I don't know, maybe it was there by, okay, by there. Shift-I again, go to that point, and go right to there.
This is really helpful.
Yeah, that's where we want to be. We want to be to this is really helpful.
This is really helpful. Enjoy. And I'll be bringing feed around for the goats if they get too lazy and just start sitting on the side. So I'll get them to walk around.
That's great. So we have that little soundbite. It's like 9 seconds. It's a little long. We could trim it later, but we'll just take this. I don't know if we're even going to use this. We may get rid of it, but let's just throw it in there. We're just kind of making up ideas here. So we're going to hit the comma key again, or hit the insert key. We have an in point, an out point, a corresponding in point. We're going to put this in the timeline. Yeah, we're going to put this in the timeline. I'm going to do the backslash key, and now I have this like there. So we have a couple shots. And this is kind of a tease because these people are walking into this event. There's an Oasis farm. There's a picture of a goat here. Then you see people walking in. They're reaching into their pocketbook to get their, receipt or whatever out.
Really helpful. Enjoy. And I'll be bringing feed around.
They're going to be bringing feed around. What's going on here?
Too lazy and just start sitting on the side. So I'll get them to walk around.
All right, so let's go into our first interview clip. So we have a little bit of a tease here. We have a little bit of an intro, kind of a tease intro, kind of an idea here. And I'm going to go to my first intro. And I think my first intro should be but I think I like Virginia better than my. And I want to talk about all these interviews here. So if we look at this, I want to talk about audio a little bit in here. Not to go crazy. We'll spend another lesson going really deep into audio and talk about audio. But I want to talk about this as an idea. So see if you can hear the difference here.
Happiness to so many people. Children can come.
So I'm listening to this on headphones. So you'll see that in this interview, there's me asking questions. And I can actually hear yoga with goats here at Oasis. That I'm coming through, my voice is coming through my left earphone here. So I have my headphones on here and my left earphone here.
Virginia, tell me how
you can see it also in the levels here. You see the levels here that I'm coming here on this channel.
Virginia Lennon.
Virginia Lennon. And Virginia's coming more on the right. So she's coming through more on the right. So these are recorded in stereo and it's recorded in right. Now here's how this was recorded because I was actually on this. I was doing this interview. I set up and did this whole production. Here's what we got. We have a microphone. We have a lavalier microphone on Virginia. And we have a lavalier microphone that's picking up Virginia. Now, we also had 2 channels. So one of the microphones was set to be on Virginia. The other microphone input 1, so there's 2 microphone inputs. Microphone input 1 was set to the on-camera microphone. There's a little microphone that's attached to the camera, and that's the on-camera microphone. And I don't know if we need that. Now, here's the relationship, here's the negotiation that we're gonna have to make, is that here, we have Virginia on this channel 2. So she's on this channel 2, the right channel, as we'll call it. And so here, we're gonna listen to her, yoga with goats here at Oasis. If we just solo this, solo channel 2 here, you're going to just hear Virginia on channel 2. And guess what? This lavalier microphone sounds a lot better than the on-camera microphone, particularly because when we hear this...
I was approached by Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis, about a year ago.
There's a lot less background noise. There's a lot less ambience. There's a lot less birds chirping and goats and people talking because it's picking up mostly her. It's kind of been isolated to mostly kind of an area around her. It's still omnidirectional, but it's kind of in a smaller range here. The on-camera mic, a lot more noise. So if we solo this channel, this microphone, in here...
Big phenomenon in the West Coast with goats with yoga.
I can hear the crickets, I can hear the wind, I can hear all the sounds. It's not as clean of a sound. Unfortunately, I didn't have a lavalier microphone when I'm asking the questions, so we're going to have to make some kind of ideas about how we're going to approach this. So let's take a look.
here at Oasis.
So I sound good there, so when you hear me ask the question...
Virginia, tell me, how did you get involved with yoga with goats?
If I were to listen to this on this channel, I'm like 6 feet away from this thing. You're not going to barely hear me at all on this one.
Virginia, tell me, how did you get...
I mean, I sound really weak, but Virginia sounds great. Now, the question you're going to ask yourself is, do we want to even hear me? Will this interview actually even have me ask the question? And sometimes when you're doing these kind of news package documentary-like projects, you don't even need to hear the interviewer because the answer stands for itself. It makes enough sense that it can stand on its own and be its own answer, and it's pretty good enough as is. So let's talk about some different approaches of how we're going to do this. So we're going to go back into the interviews here, and before we even get started, we're going to clean this up a little bit. We're going to take Virginia, and we're going to say we have a couple options. We can decide what we want to do. We're going to take Virginia, we're going to right-click, and we're going to go to Modify Audio Channels. And when we modify audio channels, there's a couple different options here. Right now, the way this is set up is the media source. This is a weird idea. It took me a little bit to wrap my brain around how this works. This is a stereo file. And so it being a stereo file, it says there are 2 channels built in. And if you look at all the audio that we have so far, all the audio on the timeline that we have so far, if we take this and say open this up wide, you'll see that there are 2 channels. There's this channel and this channel. This is recorded in stereo. These channels are all recorded in stereo. This is a stereo audio file, and it's playing back 2 channels simultaneously. And when it plays back, you'll see some different sounds based on the microphones and how they were set up. So there's 2 channels happening simultaneously that are playing back somewhat different things, somewhat different levels of volume. They're basically playing back the same content, but with some different volumes, depending on where she was in relationship to where the microphones were. So again, we're going to go back into interviews here, and inside interviews, I'm going to show you this. So this is playing a stereo file, which means most cameras you work with will play back, modify audio channels will play back a stereo file. So this is playing a stereo file, and the media that was recorded on the camera, this is the media source that was recorded on the camera, is playing on the clip here, and the clip here is playing clip number 1. And the media source for clip number 2 is playing here on the right channel. So left is going to left, right is going to right. And this would be normal. This would be typical. So that it's the left comes up in the left and the right goes in the right. You could flip these and have them go backwards and have left go to right and right go to left, but that would be weird. There's no reason to do that. So we can do that. What we could do is we could say, hey, we don't want that bad left channel. Remember that left channel had all the crickets in there, had the static, had the noise, had all the sounds we didn't want. I don't think that's worth it. We could say, let's just put everything feeding the right channel. The right channel is, again, the lavalier. So here, the lavalier can feed both the left and right channel. So now, watch, if we did this, we could say, hey, right and right channel, and now everything that's feeding on this clip here is coming from the right channel, which means you can see that the levels here are going to be the same, and both my ears are going to be hearing the lavalier microphone. It's still a stereo clip, but...
I was approached by Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis, about a year ago.
Oh my God, it sounds so much cleaner without all the crickets and the wind and the goats and the people yelling in the background. But guess what? The trade-off is that
Virginia, tell me how...
I'm really distant. My interview question is really distant. But I don't know. I think maybe just by like this, we could say...
Involved with yoga with goats here at Oasis.
She's going to say We're going to go past the
I was approached by...
So we're going to pick up right there. We're going to go right to about there. Maybe a frame or 2 before.
I was approached...
No, I think we were good before. I keep going back 2 frames and then being like...
I was approached by Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis, about a year ago.
And so I think that soundbite, I think we could just put that soundbite in there. We didn't do the question. It's a good introductory statement. It starts off the story. I was approached by Mike Cleary about 2 months. I mean, it shouldn't say it like that, but you get the idea that question... Hey, we're gonna kind of tease in what we're gonna say. I'll add this in there just for example purposes. I'll add this in there. So we have an in point, we have an in point, out point. We're gonna feed the video to the video. We're gonna feed the audio to the audio, and we're gonna say here, let's feed it in there. We're gonna insert or overwrite, doesn't matter. Boom, and it's gonna look like this. We'll hit the / key, and so we're gonna have this my here, and then we're gonna go into the first interview.
Start sitting on the side, so get them to walk around.
I was approached by Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis, about a year ago.
All right, so we've started to introduce the story. I think that's a good intro. Now the question will be: we don't have the question in there because we've kind of gotten rid of the channel that had the only channel that had my voice really well was not the lavalier channel because I was next to the camera and you can hear my voice on the on camera. The other way we could have done this is we could have said, hey, let's go to here, let's go to modify audio channels. And we could say, instead of doing a stereo channel, we could do 2 monos. This is a weird idea. So instead of stereo, we could make this a mono channel, which would actually work as well. We could make it a mono channel just playing the right. So then clip 1 wouldn't have 2 sources of audio mixed together. It would just have 1 source of audio. I could show you this as well. We could do this again, say audio. It's going to tell us, it's going to give us a warning that says, changes to the clip, channel format, or number of audio clips will not affect clips already in the sequence. It will apply the next time you clip is edited in the sequence. Do you want to continue? Yeah, sure. So it didn't mess with this one, but now this one, here, if we do this again, if we just delete this, we'll just hit delete and delete this. We'll go back to here to the cut point, and we're going to throw this in again. I want to show you how this looks different. Well, let's undo for a second. So this is how it looked before, of 2 channels built into here. We're going to delete this, start over, or maybe we can just leave it and just overwrite it. We're going to here mark an in point, and we're going to say, okay, let's take this clip again, but now when we take this clip again, based on the in points and out points, this is now a mono channel. And when we overwrite this on top of this one, it makes one audio channel, which is pretty much the same thing.
To walk around.
I was approached by Mike Cleary, the president of...
But again, in both situations, I don't have my voice. Could you make a stereo file? Yeah. Could you make a mono file? Yeah. Either way, it could have worked. I think maybe a mono file might even be better. Some people like to see that there was a stereo file there. Some people like the visualization.
I was approached by Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis.
You might get less noise than a mono file.
By Mike Cleary, the president.
We have that there, and so it's cleaner there. The other thing we can do, so again, the other thing we can do is go back here to Virginia, and we can go here to modify, and we're going to say modify audio channels. And in modify audio channels, we could make 2 mono audio channels. And we could have one be this, and one, and again, it's going to tell us it's going to change the files. Sorry, let's not click OK. Let's do back to, modify. I clicked away too soon. I said OK. We could have one clip be the left and one clip be the right. And so now it's one's left, one's right. And so what we have here is now, if you bring this in, you'll notice here that we have an audio channel 1 and an audio channel 2 like there. So we have a 1 and a 2 sitting in here. We're going to swap these because these are kind of backwards. So here it says 1 is going to 1 and 2 is going to 2. And that way, if we want both audios, so we have, again, we have it like this. We have one channel here, as this plays back, one channel is playing back me. So when I play this back...
Tell me, how did you get involved with...
And you'll see there's a little bit of a separation now between the tracks. You see that actually puts it as entirely two separate tracks. There are now 2 tracks. This is kind of the way, if you work in Avid Media Composer, or if you ever watch the Avid Media Composer tutorials, this is the way that Avid does it by default. It has 2 actual separate tracks of information. Both of them are mono, but they're not mixed together as one stereo track by default. They take the liberty of splitting them into 2 separate tracks here. So this one is me.
Yoga with goats.
And this one is the lavalier. And so if we wanted this to be just this track, well, again, we're going to overwrite again. We're going to go here, and we're going to shift-click to be right here. In point, we can put audio 2, and this is called track patching. We're going to send audio 2 to audio 1. So this one is going to feed this, and it's just going to feed this. And we don't want audio 1 because that's the live sound, and my voice isn't in here in this segment at all. Turn it off. That might be the better way to do it because now we have the option to have the on-camera mic if perchance we want it. If we know for a fact we don't want it, forget about it. But now we can just say overwrite and have this here. And this would be the clean channel.
I was approached by Mike Cleary, the president.
You can decide. And again, we can say, you know what? Forget this. Let's just forget this. And with this, with Virginia, we can say, we're never going to want the interview question. The interview questions, I'm not a great interviewer. The interview questions are lousy. We're going to put them in as some other way. Let's just, again, make this one mono audio channel. And we're going to put this in the right channel because the right channel is the clean one. It's the lavalier. It's the good one. If I really wanted to hear my voice, I would have put a microphone on me as well, but I didn't. I just used the on camera, so I don't think this is worth it. Forget about this. Again, it's going to ask us, do we want to change the clip? Yeah, okay. There. And we can actually do this for all the clips. We can actually grab all the clips, hit Command A, grab all the clips, and say, hey, all these clips, all these interviews have a lavalier. None of the interviews are good. And so we can just say, hey, let's just make these all mono, right channel. Okay, yeah, it's going to change it. And now they're all set to the lavalier. So we just kind of preset these all to the lavalier, so it's like there. We're going to take this with just the audio channels here. Again, we'll go here to this point here. We're going to in-point. We're going to put Virginia down one more time. I guess I keep overwriting her just to make sure. I don't really need to do this because I know it's a mono channel. I can see that it's a mono channel and it's the clean one, but I'm just... because we can. We have the in-point and out-point. We have the corresponding in-point. Video's lined up to video. Audio's lined up to audio. Hit the period key. We're done. Cool. So now we have this.
Walk around.
I was approached by Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis, about a year ago.
So now I want to do this back and forth. Where she says, I was approached by Mike Cleary.
I was approached by Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis, about a year ago.
And now I want to go to Mike Cleary. Now, I realize that in doing this, I kind of let the end of this go a little bit long. We're going to zoom in really close. Hit the plus key or the equal sign. And she says about a year ago. And I'm going to stop here because I want Mai to come in right here. So I'm going to show you an idea here. What we're going to do is instead of going to the end of this, right, we're going to go right to about here, right where I feel like she should finish.
A year ago.
And I'm going to go to Mai. And so Mai comes in here and interviews, and we've already set Mai with the audio. We're going to move on from that idea because I think we kind of overwhelmed us with that idea. And here, Maya says here, there's a point, I know I've seen this interview before, there's a point where the camera drops down and readjusts. And then it comes in.
How yoga with goats came about.
Okay, so
She says, I teach yoga.
I teach yoga, and a friend of mine who also teaches yoga told me she had heard about goat yoga. It was going on in Oregon.
I'm going to take that. So there. So now I have my overwrite. I have my point here. I'm basically, these last few frames, I want to take this, throw this on top of here, almost like I'm what we call sometimes tagging the tail. I'm going to kind of tag the tail. I'm going to slap my hands onto the end of this and just pick up from here, almost like we're stitching this on top of this, like we're adding more sticker onto the end of here. And we're just going to overwrite here, but it's going to overwrite for this length, the 7 seconds. Even though the end of this is only a couple seconds, we just have an endpoint here. So it's going to overwrite, tag onto the tail, and in this case, it's going to be important that we choose overwrite. I'll show you how this looks. We'll zoom out a little bit just so you can see. So we're on the tail here, and I'm just going to take this, almost like I took this and just threw this down on top of this tail here, and overwrite this like there. So now it sounds like this.
About a year ago.
I teach yoga, and a friend of mine who also teaches yoga told me she had heard about goat yoga. It was going on in Oregon.
And that would be a case that, just that example is just a case of, hey, I didn't want these extra frames. Could I have deleted these frames and then put, butted Mai back up at the end of this? Yeah, I could have, but I don't need to. I can just say, yeah, just overwrite from here, and we'll just continue on from there.
A year ago.
I teach yoga, and a friend of mine who also teaches yoga told me she had heard about goat yoga. It was going on in Oregon.
Now I'm going to go to the end of this. I'm going to hit down the down arrow, just go to the end of this, and we're going to pick up, and I'm going to go back to Virginia. And I know that Virginia's in here somewhere, so I'll just go back to Virginia here. Here's Virginia, and Virginia says...
A year ago, and there was this big phenomenon in the West Coast.
So I'm going to pick her up where she says, and there's this big phenomenon. I'm going to use my J, K, and L keys.
And there was this big phenomenon in the West Coast with goats with yoga.
Cool, I'm going to take that. So we have an in point, out point. And again, this just lines up. This lines up perfectly fine. These tracks are mono, these are stereo. It doesn't matter, it doesn't care. They're playing out to both speakers because it's mono going out to both speakers. They're centered, and so it's going out to both speakers. Again, we can hit splice in and overwrite because we're not splicing in or overwriting. We're just going to blank space here. So I'm going to hit splice in, the comma key, add this in there. So right now my sequence looks a little bit like this. Hit the backslash key, we'll take a look. It looks like this.
They get too lazy and just start sitting on the side, so get them to walk around.
I was approached by Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis, about a year ago.
I teach yoga, and a friend of mine who also teaches yoga told me she had heard about goat yoga. It was going on in Oregon.
And there was this big phenomenon in the West Coast with goats with yoga.
So let's go here and let's take here. We're going to tag onto the tail of this. So if I zoom in really close, you'll see that I kind of even tagged on the tail of this again. I never have a problem doing that because I'm going to overwrite in this case. I'm just going to pick up from here and overwrite. Even if I'm not exactly in the end, I put my mark in point. We're going to go back to Mai here and see if Mai says something that kind of contributes to this as well. So it's kind of this back and forth. It's like two ladies here having a conversation back and forth, and they're both explaining how things are working, and it makes it kind of playful and conversational.
About goat yoga. It was going on in Oregon, and they had a 900-person waiting list, and she's like, you guys should really do this, because we are struggling to make ends meet all the time, and so we added 3 classes last year, and Jen Portman from...
Okay, the problem here is, and the challenge here is that Maya tends to, she's kind of all over the place. She's a little bit all over the place, and she has a little bit of a bunch of competing thoughts that are happening here. So let's see if we can find...
Told me she had heard about goat yoga. It was going on in Oregon. And they had a 900-person waiting list. And she's like, you guys should really do this. Cause
yeah, she just kind of trails off.
we are struggling to make ends meet all the time.
I don't know. I don't love that. We're going to leave it alone for a second. I don't love that because she talks about the struggling to make ends meet all the time. I don't need that part in there. I don't think it...
And, so we added 3 classes last year, and Jen Portman from Synergy Hot Yoga and Jenna Lennon from Hot and Soul started it in their studios for us, and then they came over and helped us learn about Eventbrite, and now we take in the people ourselves. But we had 3 classes scheduled. They all sold out, so we added a few more last year, and then we just scheduled some in this year because it's a happy day for everybody. You know, people
Yeah, she's hard to
learn about Eventbrite, and now we take in the people ourselves. But we had 3 classes scheduled. They all sold.
We could go from here. We had 3 classes scheduled.
We had 3
But I think we're going to go back to here.
person waiting list. I teach yoga, and a friend of mine.
So I'm going to
who
pick up
also
from here.
teaches Yoga,
Again, it's a little bit
told me
tricky
she had
because she's...
heard about goat yoga. It was going on in Oregon, and they had a 900-person waiting list. And she's like, "You guys should really do this because we are struggling to make ends meet all the time."
So she's kind of all over the place. So we're going to take her and we're going to throw her in here and over right there. And so again, we'll hop out for a second. We'll see how this looks. So she's going to say...
It's going on in Oregon.
And there was this big phenomenon in the West Coast with goats with yoga.
And they had a 900-person waiting list. And she's like, "You guys should really do this."
I could make it, you guys should really do this. We could back up to here and get to just to, you guys should really do this. Right, we could back up
You guys
to
should really do this.
this. And then I could take this and say, okay, I want to get rid of this. So we're going to mark an endpoint, and we're going to take it for Virginia to pick up where she left off. And I think Virginia has a really good cohesive statement here.
Yoga, and I've been teaching yoga here with these student interns. So she thought, yoga teacher, goats, why not try it?
So we have that. So we have that little soundbite there. And I'm just going to override on top of this. This is going to be a little bit choppy, so we're going to see if we can clean this up a little bit later, but we'll take this.
I heard about goat yoga. It was going on in Oregon.
And there was this big phenomenon in the West.
And so they're kind of saying the same thing, like going on Oregon is the West
I
Coast.
heard about goat yoga. It was going on in Oregon.
And there was this big phenomenon in the West Coast with goats with yoga.
And they had a 900-person waiting list. And she's like, "You guys should really do this."
So she thought, yoga teacher, goats, why not try it?
All right, so we're building kind of like a backbone here. We're building some basic content. We're building the story. I don't think that edit was really bad. It was a little choppy, but...
She's like, "You guys should really do this."
So she thought,
because she's very quick and she's very on top of herself and she doesn't pause between ideas and thoughts. And so it's a little bit, I can kind of identify with that a little bit. I have trouble doing that.
approached by Mike Cleary, the president.
But now we want to think. So these women are talking, and they're talking about an interesting thing, and I like that they're talking about an interesting thing. But let's make this a little bit more playful. Let's get into some real ideas of showing what we're talking about. So we're gonna go in here, and we're gonna say.
To walk around.
I was approached by Mike Cleary, the president of.
So she says, I was approached by Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis.
I was approached by Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis.
And I'm going to mark an area here. Now I'm marking an in and out point on the timeline and saying, hey, let's put this here on the timeline. So where she says Maya Cleary, the president of Oasis.
I was approached by Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis.
Let's take a look at who Maya Cleary is. So we're going to close the interviews bin and we're going to open up the B-roll bin. Now I have 3 choices of B-roll here. We can decide which one we're going to use. And we have this clip of Maya here talking that we've already used. So we have this clip here of Maya talking that we've already taken a look at. So I don't necessarily want to use that one. We have, let's see, we have in here a clip of Maya lean down holding a goat or petting or feeding a goat, and then we have this one of Maya holding a goat. I think I like the one A44 here of Maya holding a goat here. I think I like that shot better. And we're gonna try and find a place where we have a little bit, as much of her face, it's mostly a profile. It's a little out of focus right here, maybe right about here. We're going to go there. Now, I have this clip, I have a mark in point here. This is not 4-point editing. 4-point editing doesn't make sense. We have an in point and an out point on the timeline. And because we have an in point and out point on the timeline, we have this here. We can make this clip, however long this needs to be, it needs to be 2.5 seconds long. 2 seconds, 15 frames long. We have another 6 seconds from this in point to the end of this clip. Another 6 seconds to go of clip here. So we can fit 6 seconds into 2:15 by just saying that this starts here and it ends 2.5 seconds later. So figure it ends at, we can do the math here. This starts at 6 seconds exactly. Oh, that's really easy. 6 seconds exactly. I did that by accident. 6 seconds exactly. So what's 2:15 later? Well, 2:15 later is 8:15. And so it's going to end about here. You're going to see the goat with his face like there. It's going to end there. Now, do we have to put a mark here? No. Why? Because it's just going to go for how long it needs and fit it into that space. So it's going to fit from here to here in that space and just, forget about the rest of this stuff. Now what we want to do is we want to leave Virginia alone. We want to be able to hear Virginia say, "My Cleary, the president of Oasis."
Approached by my.
If we were to edit this in here right now, we could overwrite this and it would look like this.
To walk around.
I was approached by.
And that's obviously not what we want to do, so we can undo, and we're going to say, let's turn the audio off. So we're going to turn the audio off. So now we're not feeding audio onto this track. This audio track is not feeding audio. We can turn this audio off as well. Sometimes I do that just because it makes me feel better, but I don't need to. But now we're not feeding audio onto this track. Here, we'll turn it off just so you can see. We're only feeding video. And we could edit this way. We could say overwrite again. We're going to overwrite this clip into here and overwrite this on top. And so now it looks like this.
I was approached by Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis.
And that is reasonably, ultimately what we want to do. We want it to look like that. Reasonably, we want it sort of, kind of to look like that, but not exactly. Because my advice here is, we want to take this and we want to leave Virginia alone here. Trust me on this, it makes sense later. We want to go here and we want to put it on video 2. We want to put this clip to feed onto video 2. We want to have another track. We have a video 2 track. Let's use it. Let's take advantage of it. It makes more sense that way. And I'll show you why. We're going to turn this and we're going to take video 1 and we're going to drag this up and push this up to video 2. So we're just going to take over here and we're just going to point up to here and say, go to here. And video 1 is going to go to video 2. So this is the source. The source of video 1. This is the waiter. This is the waiter, and it's feeding this table now. He was feeding this table before, but now he's moved to this table, now he's feeding this table. So this is my little waiter here. This source video is feeding this timeline track. We have multiple timeline tracks. We only have one video source track, and now we're feeding this one over to here. We're going to go here, and we're going to say overwrite. And here we're going to say overwrite, or the period key, and we're going to overwrite this on top here. And this makes a little kind of a top on top of this, makes a little hat on top of this. I like this better, and the reason I like this better is because if I don't want this clip, if I say, hey,
I was approached by Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis.
We don't need to see Mike Cleary here, we don't need the clip of Mike Cleary, I can just click on it and delete it, and Virginia's back. If it was done like this, down here, we'll just undo a second and we'll do again. If it was here and done like this, and we overwrite, boom, if I delete this clip, guess what? I don't get Virginia back. There's ways around that and there's ways to fix that, but it's just more work for me. So I think it's easier in this case to say, let's put this on video 2 up here, and now it's going to be on video 2. We're going to overwrite, period key, and it's going to be on top of this like here.
I was approached by Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis, about
I like that. I can move it around, I can adjust it.
a year ago.
And Virginia's still in place. She's still untouched. There's just a Band-Aid over Virginia that just has an overlay of this clip cutting away to this clip.
I was approached by Mike Cleary.
It's a better way to go. It's a better way to work.
About a year ago.
I teach yoga, and a friend of mine who also teaches yoga
We'll do this again.
told me she had heard about goat yoga. It was going on in Oregon.
Now, I'm going to take this clip here, and I'm going to say where she says goat yoga was going on in Oregon. Now, we don't have any footage of goat yoga going on in Oregon.
Heard about goat yoga. It was
But I'm going to pick up where she says heard about goat yoga.
told me she had heard about goat yoga. It was going on in Oregon.
So I have this section here, and I've marked this area. This is kind of reverse three-point editing. So let's get a footage of somebody doing yoga with goats. Somebody doing yoga in the presence of goats, and we'll pretend that this is Oregon, even though it's not Oregon. It's the next best thing we have. We're going to find some footage here of people doing some kind of yoga with goats. We don't know what state this is in. This could be in Oregon. We're going to be here. Again, we do not want the audio from this, so we're going to say no. Do not feed the audio. The audio waiter is on break, so he's not feeding any tables here. He's on a break here, and we're just going to feed the video over and say here, let's feed this over like this. And we're going to say overwrite. Video 1 is being patched to video 2, so it's going to feed onto video 2. I don't want to feed it onto video 1 like this. I'm going to feed it over here onto video 2 and say overwrite. Boom. So now we have just these cutaways, these little band-aids that just cut away to this. And it looks like this, which I'm going to tell you right now, I'll let you know right now I don't love, and I'll show you why.
Told me she had heard about goat yoga. It was going on in Oregon.
And
So there's a little bit of a flash frame here, and that's because I ended this clip, I put the out point right before this other clip ended, so that's a problem.
Oregon.
Yeah, that looks weird. Let's just take this clip, and we're just going to move this slightly over so it just ends right on the end of this clip. So we don't see Virginia again, or don't see Mai again at the end of this.
Told me she had heard about goat yoga. It was going on in Oregon.
And it was
I think that's cleaner. Otherwise, that little bit of a flash frame that we saw there, we saw Mai for a split second, and then we saw Virginia.
It was going on in Oregon.
It's a little jarring. Let's just move this over. We can just move it over.
I had heard about goat yoga. It was going on in Oregon.
and there was this
All right, so let's go back here again. And there was this big phenomenon.
big phenomenon in the West Coast with goats with yoga.
And I could say, okay, let's find another phenomenon on the West Coast of goats with yoga.
West Coast with goats with yoga.
And they had a
And we're going to go here and just find another clip of people doing yoga with goats. And or we could, if you want to, we can all just book a flight to the West Coast and go to Oregon and shoot some people doing yoga with goats. I'm sure it's a good time of year for it. But, we can just have some there. Or we could just say, hey, let's just grab a clip of somebody doing yoga in the presence of goats. This looks pretty good. Some downward goat or something there. Let's make sure the goat's in the frame. I don't know. Maybe let's find another picture here. We'll find something else where someone's doing yoga with goats. There's a lot of people just petting goats. It's really just not doing as much yoga, but doing a lot more petting of goats here. We have some other footage here. We're going to zoom out a little bit. Here's some other goats. Let's see if we can find some stuff. Some people doing yoga in the presence of goats. Maybe this shot right here. We'll try that guy. That's the same woman there. But now, oh yeah, that's a, and there's phenomenon in the West Coast. This is the West Coast. You can tell by the grass or something. I don't know. But this is going to go over both these clips here. So we're going to have this, again, we have an in point. We have 8 seconds left over. We can fill a 2.5 second clip here. We're going to say overwrite, put it in there. So now it looks like this.
teaches yoga told me she had heard about goat yoga. It was going on in Oregon.
And there was this big phenomenon in the West Coast with goats with yoga.
And they had a 900-person waiting list. And she's like, you
And if you had pictures of the 900-person waiting list, this be even better B-roll.
guys should really do this.
So she thought,
And we're going to do this one more time.
yoga teacher,
So we're going to find a picture of a yoga teacher. So right here we're going to say yoga teacher.
yoga teacher.
Right, we have yoga teacher. So let's find a picture of a yoga teacher. Do we find this picture? This is a different yoga teacher. It's not her. We do have some footage of her being a yoga teacher, so we could find a shot of something where she's doing a yoga. This is a good shot right here. Yoga teacher. This might be a good thing. So she's doing a shot like this. We got this yoga teacher right there. So we get the arms opening up. So we're going to mark it right here. I'm using the I and O keys right above the J, K, and L. As my fingers are resting on J, K, and L. We're going to say yoga teacher, overwrite this. It's going to say, hey.
Yoga teacher.
Now I'm going to go to the very edge of this. So I'm going to go right here to the very edge of this. Because next thing she says is goats.
Goats, why not?
And we're going to have goats. So let's find a good picture of goats. Because we got some good goats here. We got some great goat footage. Oh, can we go to my favorite goat? Let's find my favorite. Oh, there he is. A46 right there. Look at that goat. That's a good looking goat right there. Look at him. Look at him just staring at you. Look at that goat. Look how cute. Look how adorable that goat is. I mean, it's like the Ryan Gosling of goats right there. It's amazing. He's good looking goat right there. I mean, you got to admit. Anyway, we're going to add this in. We have an in point and out point. We're going to overwrite again. Pick this up from there. And now it's going to be like.
But yoga teacher. Goats, why not try?
I feel like I want to redo that. I feel like I want to undo that and just find. I want to get the in point a little bit before so that he looks over when she says goats. So I'm going to try and time this out. There's better ways to do this, but we're going to kind of just rough this in. I'm going to sit here and overwrite this in here. So now as he turns his head, he's going to be like, yoga teacher, goats. He's going to look at you when he says goats, goats. Let's see if I hit it right.
Thought, yoga teacher, goats, why not try it?
Perfect. Beautiful. And so we'll have, why not try it? So we built this sequence here. We have a couple pieces of B-roll here.
This is really helpful. Enjoy. And I'll be bringing feed around for the goats if they get too lazy.
We could even throw a B-roll in here and say, hey, maybe we show, if we have a shot of like people watching or seem like they're listening intently, we could cut in a cutaway just to make this a little bit more playful, a little bit more active. We could find like a shot of like, do we have an audience here listening and watching, getting all ready. I mean, in this, their eyes are closed. I don't know, we'll try it. We'll just just as an idea, we'll throw it in there. If we had a good shot of them like reacting or showing their faces like nodding and showing there. Okay, so this clip says, hey, we only have 3 seconds here, 3:01. We have to fit in 3:10 here. And when we do this, it says, hey, overwrite. It says, hey, I can't do this. I only have, remember I keep saying before, if I have enough footage, I can just, the computer will just figure it out. The software will just figure out, hey, I need to figure out a 10-second section. You give me 6 seconds, I'll figure it out. So we have some options here. Well, one, we could go back, we could move this out point back to here and say, hey, now we've got 4 seconds left, and this will fit in here perfectly fine. We could do that there. But say, for example, we desperately wanted this clip to start right here. Well, the other question is that we could let this go to the end of this clip and then just say, forget the out point. And it asks us, it says, hey, the source footage that you've selected here is shorter than the destination. It's got to go to 310. You've only got 3 seconds left. Do you want to ignore the sequence out point? And you'll see, instead of making a clip this long, it'll make a clip only that long, which is a little bit shorter, about 9 frames shorter. I don't think it's the end of the world.
And I'll be bringing feed around for the goats if they get.
I don't know. That's not really great. I don't like the shot anyway. If I had a better shot of people paying attention, looking onward at people doing, we'll look through really quick. We won't go crazy, but we'll just see if we find a shot of people paying attention, not doing yoga, but just kind of like introducing their, something. I don't think I have anything good, so we're going to leave it alone. I'm going to get rid of these points. I can hit Option I and Option O to get rid of the in point and get rid of the Option O. That's Alt I and Alt O on a PC, of course. And so we have this here. We'll leave this alone.
This is really helpful.
We'll consider it later. We'll debate it.
Bringing feed around for the goats.
I wasn't really even listening to this. It was just kind of this woman here who introduced the event.
I was approached by my Cleary,
This is the real content I care about, right?
About a year ago.
I teach yoga, and a friend of mine who also teaches yoga told me she had heard about goat yoga. It was going on in Oregon.
And there was this big phenomenon in the West Coast with goats with yoga.
And they had a 900-person waiting list, and she's like, you guys should really do this.
So she thought, yoga teacher, goats, why not try it?
Okay, so say for example we decide in doing this that we don't like this clip of Mai. I decide that I don't like this clip of Mai here. So here,
with goats with yoga.
And they had a 900-person.
So what if we just had her say, what if we just had Virginia say,
the West Coast with goats with yoga.
And there was this big event in the West Coast with goats with yoga, and then we cut back to Virginia saying,
So she thought
yoga teacher, goats, why not try it? Let's get rid of Mai. So we're going to go here, and we're going to look at this here. Okay, so let's play some games here. We're going to look here at the section of Mai. Now, a couple things we could do. We could click on Mai, and we could delete it. And if we delete it, it leaves a big gap in here in between Mai. Now,
posts with goats with yoga.
And there's a big gap there where Mai was. Now, we could take these clips and we could drag them back and just drag them over, and that might be a thing we could do. What I like better here is we could do a couple things. So we'll take a couple different approaches. We could go here to the beginning of where Mai is. Right here, we're going to go back to the beginning of Mai, and we're going to mark an endpoint. Sorry, right here on video 1. Notice it's not, when I go up and down arrows, it's not going to video 1, and that's because video 1 is not on right now. The track selector on the timeline side needs to be on video 1, and then we'll go to the beginning of video 1, we'll mark an endpoint here. We'll go to the end of this, down arrow again, and we'll go to the end of this, and we can mark an in and out point around here. What we could do is, we could use this key, and this is the apostrophe key, and the apostrophe key would be to extract this out. Now, if we extract this out, what's going to happen is, it's going to pull this back and close this gap as 1. Except, we were on video 2 now, so it's also going to cut off video 2 as well. So video 2 gets a little bit shorter, and cuts there like there. If we don't want video 2 to get shorter, we could turn this off. But the problem here is that when we extract again, apostrophe key, that's right 2 over from the L, so you can just reach your finger. So if your fingers are resting on J and L, you can just reach over towards the return key and cut it off. It's still going to cut it off, and that is because Adobe loves to be in sync. Now, the other option we could do is we could do one of a couple options. We could grab this and we could say, let's get rid of the in and out points. And we're going to say here, we could delete, and we could delete this blank space, and that would pull this over. That could be a thing that would be easy to do, but I'll show you one more. So delete blank space would be one thing to do. However, if we do this, if we do click and we do command delete, nope, I'm wrong. Option delete, of course, option delete. So click on option delete, it does it all at once. So this is a ripple delete. So it basically deletes and then pulls everything back. Boom. So it's basically like an extract delete. Now, why would you use extract delete versus regular delete? Well, say for example in here, we wanted to make this clip shorter. There's a couple ways to do this, but we could do this. The easiest way to do this is say, okay, we have this clip here.
This is really helpful. And I'll be bringing feed around.
What if we just wanted to pick up from and I'll be bringing feet around? So we're just going to have her come in here from and I'll be bringing feet around. So at the beginning of this,
This is really helpful. Enjoy, and I'll be on it.
so right here she says, and I'll be bringing feet around. I'm going to mark an out point here, and I'm going to go to the beginning of this, and I'm going to mark an end point here. So right here, I want to get rid of this part. I want to remove this part. I don't want to remove the entire clip, right? I don't want to select the clip and either delete or option delete. I don't want to go like this and get rid of the entire clip. I like the clip. I just want to truncate off this part. I just want to remove this part and close everything out. That's a place where this thing that says extract, that apostrophe key, is a great way to cut this out. I mark an in point and out point around this clip, and I extract this, and it makes the clip shorter, and now it looks like this. That's a thing I can do.
And I'll be bringing feed around for the goats if they get too lazy and just start sitting on the side. So I'll get them to walk around.
I was approached by
So I could make the clip a little bit shorter, a little bit tighter, a little bit nicer. I could make it move that way, and I'd have a better result in there. So now we have this sequence here. So we've seen some of these tools here. I just want to revisit some of these tools and show you what some of them do. The ability to cut stuff out. There's several ways to do this, and there's several ways to make clips longer, to delete clips, to move clips around, to add clips in, to not add clips in. There's a bunch of different options. Adobe Premiere offers you several different ways of doing things. You figure out the way that's quickest for you and the way that works the best and gives you the best results.
And I'll be bringing feed around for the.
Again, I could say that this woman here, we go to here, but after we go past here, this woman starts to yawn, which doesn't really help sell the thing. So we can back up here, get right before we see her yawning, mark an in point, go to the end of this clip, mark an out point, and then just say apostrophe, kill it. You got to make that sound effect with your mouth, like there. You don't really have to, but you know.
And I'll be bringing feed around.
It's a much quicker clip,
If they get too lazy and just start.
and so we can clean this up a little bit that way.
Walk around.
I was approached
So that's what that
by-
apostrophe or that extract tool does. Based on the mark in and out points, based on those in and out points, it says remove that and just close the gap automatically.
Cleary, the president of
Probably for an entire clip, if you want to remove an entire clip, you could just say grab the clip and option delete it. Option key and the delete key, the alt key and the delete key, and that would do the whole clip. That's if you want to move the whole clip. That's probably the easiest way to go. Now, the issue would be, normally, I'm going to turn on video 2 for a second. The issue would be that if we had Virginia up against Virginia,
in the West Coast with Goats with Yoga.
there'd be a jump cut, right? We'd have a jump cut.
The West Coast with Goats with Yoga.
You see her head magically move there because we cut out a whole section of her saying something else. But thankfully, we do have this B-roll over to cover the jump cut. So we're hiding the jump cut by just having, we cut away to the B-roll.
Coast with Goats with Yoga. So she thought,
And that seems like a cohesive statement. We just kind of said, hey, look over here at this woman doing yoga with goats. And then we cut back to Virginia. Like, you didn't even notice that there was a cut there because it seemed like it just happened all synchronously.
the West Coast with Goats with Yoga. So she thought, yoga teacher, goats, why not try it?
We'll just add another clip in here just to round out the rest of the day here, to add another clip in here. And we're just going to mark an in point, and we're going to grab another clip of, say, this woman here. We'll go to interviews, and we'll go to Samantha, who was one of the people attending the yoga event. So let's take a look.
Let me just your name is
Samantha Lennon.
Samantha Lennon. Samantha, tell me what it's like doing yoga with goats around.
Again, you can barely hear me. Unfortunately, you can barely hear me, and the reason you can barely hear me is because the only mic that we had, we got kind of rid of it in the audio settings, in the audio, modify the audio channels.
It was exciting. It's a beautiful space, and I've been doing yoga for a while, but never with goats.
That's a great soundbite. So we have that little 5-second soundbite. We have a mark in point, we have a mark out point. We're going to put this in here, and we're going to say, hey, let's just overwrite this or splice this in. So we're going to overwrite and splice this in, and you're going to notice automatically I'm going to make a horrible mistake. And that horrible mistake is, well, one, it put it on channel 2, which I don't really want it on video 2. And also, where's my audio? Oh, I forgot.
Why not try it?
I was so busy putting in my video clips and my B-roll clips, I forgot to turn the audio back on. So God bless, we have undo. We're going to go to undo. We're going to put this on video 1. So video 1 is going to feed video 1. The waiter from A1 is going to feed A1. And we're going to say, yeah, let's just put this in here. And so we have this clip in there.
Goats, why not try it?
It was exciting. It's a beautiful space, and
And what was exciting? I have no idea. Well, of course we know what's exciting. We don't need the question there because we know we're talking about goat yoga. Goat yoga was exciting. That's the thing we're talking about. She's not talking about something else.
Try it.
It was exciting. It's a beautiful space, and I've been doing yoga for a while, but never with goats.
Try it.
It was exciting.
And so we can build this that way, and we can build kind of this whole sequence in that kind of idea. We'll throw one more clip in here. I'm going to go to interviews here, and we're going to go to Fiona. God bless Fiona. So this is Fiona. Fiona was about 8 years old in this scene. I want to show you this scene because I want to hold this against her forever. Forever I want to hold this against her. In this.
Turn a little bit towards me, just a little bit like that. Cool. You good? Hey, Fiona? Tell me what it was like doing yoga with goats.
So the person interviewing her, her father, asks her what it was like doing yoga with goats. Now the backstory to this is that her father, her dear, sweet, understanding, great instructor of a father, told her, don't pick up a goat. So she disobeyed her father, and she went chasing after this woman who was a relative stranger to her. She worked there at the farm. Her name was Sari. She was a very sweet woman. She went chasing after this woman and asked the woman, can I pick up a goat? Now, her father had already told her, don't pick up a goat. But here she is, chasing after the woman to ask her if she can pick up a goat too. And she's looking at her father, who said, hey, don't pick up a goat. Why? Because, let's be honest, he didn't want her to pick up a goat. Because he was a smart person and knew that she shouldn't pick up a goat. So here, we interview her and she says,
it was cool because I tried to pick up a goat because the lady said I could.
And that right there is a daughter who knows she got away with something that her father told her not to do, and she did it anyway because she's a rebel and she's there. So we're gonna put Fiona here in before Samantha. So we're gonna go here to the cut point, back to the cut point. I can shift drag and go right to the cut point here. So we snap the cut point, and I'm gonna mark an in point. So we're gonna put Fiona, we have an in point, out point. We have the tracks lined up, and we're going to put Fiona in here before we put in Samantha. So we're going to say here, we're going to insert this here. Now, if we overwrite, we're going to overwrite Fiona over Samantha, and that's going to be a weird look. That's not going to be what we want. We don't want to do that. So we're going to undo that, and we're going to insert. And insert's going to cut this open, take these clips, open these up like this, put a gap in here, and then fit Fiona into there. So we're going to go like this, and we're going to insert her. It's going to wedge her in there. That's the comma key. Wedge her in there, so it goes to Fiona, and go to there.
Yoga teacher, goats, why not try it?
It was cool because I tried to pick up a goat because the lady.
And we're going to take that, and we're going to take the image here. We're going to find that B-roll clip of the lady saying I could, because we do have a good image of her chasing after the lady who was not her mother and not her father, and was some, random person who worked there who said that she could, in fact, pick up a goat, even though we both know, I think we all know, that she wasn't allowed to pick up a goat, and she was disobeying. Where's that clip? We saw it before. Did I delete it? Oh, there it is. We just rolled past it. No, that's different. Oh, where is that clip? Oh, there it is. It's moved over because we changed this thing. I was looking over on this side. Here it is. There's that clip. So we're going to find a good place, the most incriminating place. Here she is. Here she is looking at the... There, she's looking at her father as she runs after, because she knows she's going to ask this woman, even though her father told her no. I'm sure some stranger will tell her yes, and she's going to chase after that person. Again, we're going to turn the audio off, and I'm going to patch the video up to video 2, so I'm not patching audio over, and video 2 is going to go up top here. And you can see it kind of highlights. That's why I sometimes turn the audio off. I like seeing the highlight to know exactly what I'm doing. In this case, we're going to overwrite the period key, and we're going to throw this into here, so it's going to look like this.
It was cool because I tried to pick up a goat because the lady said I could.
And we could change our minds. We could say, you know what, I think we really, as much as we want to see the B-roll,
I tried to pick up a goat.
Maybe we want to get rid of this clip. We can just delete this clip. We won't option delete it because that will extract it. We want to just delete it to kind of lift it out. And when we lift it out, we're going to hit delete. Because you know what we really want to see? Her father really wants to see how disobedient she looks and how she smiles when she realizes the treachery she did.
It was cool because I tried to pick up.
Look at her face. Look at her face. Look how incriminating that face is. She's not even making eye contact. She's looking off.
The lady said I could.
Look at her face. Look how proud she is there that she was disobedient. She leans back in that disobedient look. Man, we're going to save this sequence. We haven't saved yet. We haven't really saved anything. We're going to hit Command S or File Save and just make sure we save this. File Save, Command S, boom. Save this as goat yoga. This can be saved that way. I think we did some good work today. I think we had a good sequence. I think we talked about some ideas that maybe were kind of brushed over in the first lesson about editing. This is going to be a little bit deeper and a little bit more kind of stylistic approaches and really raise some questions about audio channels and how we put clips in and how we remove clips. I think we need to talk about it. So I hope this was helpful. Again, play, make some cool stuff, make some cool edits, have some fun with it. And, come up with your own vision and your own interpretation of what you think. This may be garbage to you because you think that you can do better, or your ideas of what we include or what we don't include. Maybe we want Samantha before Fiona. We'll talk in future lessons about how to move those clips around. But it's just from doing it and coming up with, what the story you want to tell and what the art form that you want to explore, what the artistic approach you want to take is. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in a future lesson.